Hey, YouTube, Bald Guy here. Blue ice is the result of a phenomenon that occurs when snow falls on a glacier and becomes part of it over time as it compresses. During this process, air bubbles are squeezed out of the ice crystals, causing them to enlarge, giving them a nice blue shade. Ooh. It also refers to some areas in Antarctica, aptly called blue ice areas, where the ice surface has so little net mass from sublimation and wind movement that it appears to be blue. But the blue ice we're interested in today is neither of those. You see, there's a third type of blue ice. One that's actually not ice at all. Hang on. No, this blue ice is an unholy concoction of liquid disinfectant used in aircraft lavatory waste systems and human feces that, when in high altitudes, freezes into an ice cube-shaped, blue-colored compound. Airlines are obviously not allowed to dump their biowaste mid-flight, and there is no way to manually eject them either. But that doesn't mean accidents don't occur. By 2003, there were over 30 documented impacts of blue ice in the US alone, with even more across the globe. Our story today is about one such incident. The year is 2010. In a rural village from the Hebei province, a supernatural phenomenon was observed. After a good night of plow in her fields, an old farmer, known as Aunt Zhang, starts off her daily routine of plowing the fields. Life is simple in her village, and nothing unusual ever really happens. But that day, something unusual did happen. Out of nowhere, a bright light falls from the sky, followed by a very loud meteorite impacty sound. She doesn't care at first for some reason, only for a second loud impact to scare her shitless. Fearful yet intrigued, Aunt Zhang grappled with the decision to investigate the source of the commotion. She'd suspected it was a bomb that would explode if she went over, but like a shining knight on a white horse, Xiao Wang, a fellow villager passing by, gave her the courage she needed to make her decision. Knowing she wouldn't be dying alone, they ventured ahead, deep into the local grove. To both their surprise and Aunt Zhang's relief, their lives weren't in any immediate danger. Instead of a bomb, it was a neat pile of blue ice cubes, one that Xiao Wang wastes no time in claiming all the bragging rights for by snapping some pictures to show the rest of the village, becoming a real clout chaser long before TikTok's shitposting brain rot was a thing. Soon, news of the event spread through the entire village like cholera in an area with a poorly sanitized water supply, and the villagers clamored around to see what all the hubbub was for themselves. Keep in mind that this is a fairly traditional rural village. There aren't too many modern facilities, the majority of its inhabitants are of the elderly variety, and most importantly, like any good fantasy novel starring village, all of them were the superstitious sort. When faced with this mysterious heavenly ice from above, the more conservative ones speculated that this was a divine omen, that the heavens issued them a stern warning of some kind. Others, however, agreed that this was very likely some sort of heavenly water with mystical healing powers. But the most audacious ones, and I really hope I was making this up, they ate it. This mystery object that came from God knows where, made from God knows what, and they put it in their fucking mouths. China really is ahead of its time, isn't it? These brave souls reported that it tasted delicious and surprisingly sweet. Wait, what the actual f***? Before things went out of hand at least, the village elder stepped in to put the kibosh on it. At least somebody here has some common sense. Unfortunately, the rest of the villagers were just done flushing theirs down the drain, as some of the attendees snuck away some pieces for later consumption. The biggest offender being an 80-year-old senior nicknamed Uncle Addy, which is clearly a reference to the German brand he's never seen without. Audi. For the foreseeable future, he gorged himself on a few bites of the blue ice a day after storing it in his refrigerator, and he claimed that ever since he started this diet, he had become more energetic, and that the blue ice was in fact capable of curing all diseases. Obviously, this was just a placebo effect. Naysayers insisted that the ice couldn't be anything more than just ice, and that Uncle Adi was full of shit. And shortly after, heated arguments and rumors on the topic lit up the entire region. It was around this time that one of CCTV's documentary film programs, Approaching Science, got their story. Approaching Science was a fairly popular show at the time that focused on debunking supernatural events with an emphasis on scientific interpretation, and was dubbed the revolution in TV science programs in China later on. The experts assigned to the case were quick to dismiss the idea of a heavenly cure-all, quite obviously, and hypothesized instead that it came from outer space. After shipping some samples to Beijing for a more in-depth analysis, they came to realize that this so-called ice contained traces of disinfectant. While they were struggling to make sense of this new discovery, one of the researchers had a eureka moment, recalling an anecdote from a well-known military strategist, Mr. Sasu, in his book on his time working at the Civil Aviation Administration. The anecdote tells of how, while he was arranged by the troop leader to clean up aircraft waste, contrary to Mr. Sasu's expectation, it wasn't a disgusting mess of brown and yellow, but that it turned into lumps of ice instead. Hinging upon this clue, the Approaching Science team reached out to the local Civil Aviation Bureau and confirmed, after thorough investigation, that a plane has indeed passed directly over the village on D-Day, and traced it all the way back to an unlashed tail valve on the plane that leaked some of that juicy frozen excrement. God, I hate that line. And that's it. That's where the story ends. I guess the moral of the story is, don't eat shit off the floor, because you never know when the shit you picked up could actually be shit. Get the fuck out already! Oh shit!